Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Today we'll be discussing Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 7, text 1. We'll be starting with the new chapter. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Mai Asakta Manah Partha Yogam Yunjan Madashrayah Asamshayam Samagram Mam Yatha Gnasyasi Tachrunu. Now, in the previous chapter, Krishna ended by saying that the best yogi is who is Krishna conscious. Yoginam api sarvesham madgatena antaratmana Shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yukta tamo mataha. Now, in this chapter, Krishna is going to delineate what he has explained in the last verse. How one can become that madgatena antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate, how one can become Krishna conscious. The nature of Krishna consciousness is fully described in this chapter. Krishna's opulences and four kinds of fortunate people who become attached to Krishna, and four kinds of unfortunate people who never take to Krishna. All of these things are going to be explained in the 7th chapter. So, there are 18 chapters in Bhagavad Gita. The first 6 chapters explain only the constitutional position of the living entities. And when it is understood, just like when you actually understand your actual position, your activities actually begin. Like, for example, you are in the office and you just go into the office and your post is not settled up, and what duty you have to execute, you don't know. Then you are running around, you don't know what to do, you are doing, and you are randomly doing things. And ultimately, your manager comes and sets you right and gives you proper thing, and then you are secure. Oh, thank God, now I am doing right thing. Otherwise, you will never be settled. So one has to understand what is my post or my position constitutionally. So that is explained in the first 6 chapters. So Baladev Vidya Bhushana, one of the authorized commentators on Bhagavad Gita, he says the same thing. The first 6 chapters describe the constitutional position of the living entity. And then now Krishna explains how, by understanding the constitutional position, we can engage in the service of Krishna. How? By hearing more about Krishna, by understanding more about Krishna. Krishna uses this word, Mai asakta manaha pardha. By concentrating one's mind upon Krishna, one is able to know the absolute truth completely, but not otherwise. Asamshayam samagram mam yadha gnasyasi. Mam gnasyasi. You will understand Krishna in truth. Asamshayam samagram, completely without any doubt. How can it be done? Only when my asakta manaha, when the mind becomes attached to Krishna. And Prabhupada here, he also mentions Shrunvatam Swakatha Krishna. How the mind becomes attached to Krishna? It starts from hearing. The more one hears about Krishna, the more one's mind becomes attached to Krishna. So Prabhupada says in the purport, therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the signs of Krishna. Shrunvatam Swakatha Krishna Punyashravana Kirtanah Hridyantastho hi abhadrani vidhunoti suhrutsatam. When you hear about Krishna, Krishna being the well-wisher and benefactor of the sincere, truthful living entity, cleanses the desire for material things in the heart. And then, as you continue to hear, Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu, all the Abhadra in our hearts become Nashta by this process called Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. And Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki, that Bhagavan becomes fixed up in our hearts. It is called Mai Asaktamanaha. By hearing more, our mind becomes attached more. When Prabhupada was initiated in 1933, on the day of the ceremony, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he met with his disciples. It was at the Allahabad Gaudiya Math. And he was speaking about Krishna and taking questions. And then one brahmachari, disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he took the opportunity to introduce several devotees as candidates for initiation. You know, when the spiritual master initiates, the candidates are introduced. Oh, these are up for initiation today, like that. And so Prabhupada was one of them. At that time, he was called Abhay Charan De. He used to regularly attend the classes and kirtans. He used to lead the kirtans and he used to listen to the teachings and he used to occasionally speak as well. And he would bring several respectable guests and he would contribute Lakshmi and induced his business colleagues. So Prabhupada at that time, Abhay Charan, he looked up humbly at his spiritual master. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was now face to face. And Bhaktisiddhanta actually recognizes him. And he was very pleased with him. And then he told, yes. He looks at Prabhupada, Abhay. He says, yes, he likes to hear. He does not go away. I have marked him. I will accept him as my disciple. So Prabhupada had this habit that whenever he would attend the discourses of his spiritual master, he would just sit and hear. He would not go away like others because Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was speaking very high language, very philosophical discourses. And you know, people usually they don't have that much inclination and they used to go away. But Prabhupada would sit and hear whatever Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was speaking. And that made him dear to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Even when in Vrindavan, when they were conducting this parikrama, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur conducted the parikrama, and every day there used to be classes. And in the evening there will be classes. So that evening, Bhaktisiddhanta was giving a class, and there was alternate program. Some devotees were going and visiting some temples, Seshasai and all these places. And they asked Prabhupada also to come. But in parallel, the class was going on of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So Prabhupada preferred to sit and listen to the class, very philosophical class. He thought this is more important. The words coming from the spiritual master have the potency to cleanse our consciousness. Sauttama shloka mahan mukhachuto bhavat padam bhoja sudhakananilaha smrutim punar vismruta tattvavartmanam kuyoginam no vitaratyalam varaihi. So it is said in Bhagavatam, when a pure devotee speaks, and the words coming out of his mouth, sa uttama shloka mahan mukhachuta, the words coming out of the mouth about Uttama Shloka, who is Krishna, it is mixed with Bhavat Padambhoja Sudha Kana Nilaha. Krishna's lotus feet has this Sudha Kana, means the saffron particles, dust particles, nectarian dust particles, and they mix with the vibration pronounced by the pure devotee, and it produces a wonderful nectar. And when that enters our ears, Smrutim punar vismruta tattva vartmanam. The forgetfulness that we developed about Krishna, vismruta, punaha smrutihi, it erases that and brings back that remembrance of Krishna. So this is the power of hearing from a pure devotee. And then we can fix the mind on Krishna. So Prabhupada, in one lecture, he said, the best way for practicing devotees to fix the mind on Krishna is to hear the holy names of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we have to hear each and every word, every syllable, but it is difficult because the mind is flickering and unsteady. Chanchalam hi manaha Krishna, pramadhi balavadrudham. Arjuna told already, it is more difficult to control the mind than to control the wind. Like when there is a strong wind and you are on a boat and the boat can topple, nobody can control the wind. You are at the mercy of the nature. If somebody on the boat says, oh, let me control the wind and steady the boat, they're being foolish. So, like that, Arjuna says it is even difficult to control the mind than controlling the wind. But Krishna said in response to that, it is possible. Now one might think, oh, it is difficult even to control, difficult than controlling the wind, but it is possible. How? What is that method? I want to learn that method to control the mind. Krishna says two things. One is abhyasena vairagyena, practice and detachment. So practice comes first. So we have to practice every day. See, what a wonderful opportunity. We have to practice the art of chanting. Even though the mind may not focus, going running here and there, but practice makes perfect. It applies even in spiritual life. So every day we have to practice. And then Krishna reciprocates. Practice, 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 and Krishna one day, okay, you take it. So everything we have to depend on Krishna. Even if you think you have mastered the art, sometimes we may take it for granted. And suddenly the taste is not coming. Because Krishna has to also grant it. There is in bhakti, in spirituality, unlike material things, oh, you mastered something and you are able to do like this, and the result has to come. But in spirituality, it's not like that. Always there is sanction of the Lord. We have to depend on the Lord. We have to put our efforts, and we have to depend on the mercy of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada showed that all the time. When they conducted Pandal program, so in those days when Prabhupada came to India after having success in the West, he brought these disciples to India. And one of the methods they would preach Krishna consciousness was by conducting big pandal programs. You know, big tents they used to arrange, pandals, and hundreds and thousands of people would come, and there will be a big stage, there will be kirtan performances and classes, and so on and so forth. So, after having seen the success in Bombay or Mumbai, at the time Bombay, so Prabhupada sent some disciples to go to Calcutta to arrange a pandal program. But then at that time, there were many Naxalites, you know, the youth, the communist youth who were against the government. They became Naxalites. And they used to kidnap people from rich families, and they would even kill them for their cause. And when Prabhupada first came to Calcutta, these Naxalites, they shot a wealthy person right on the street, just a few blocks away from where Prabhupada was staying. And there was a lot of nervousness. And Prabhupada still conducted the Pandal program. And they sent a note to Prabhupada, to the devotees, when they learnt about this program. And in that, they, they composed this note, uh, without revealing their handwritten handwriting. They had cut the letters out of newspaper and assembled these letters. And it said, "Fly or die." So that means you fly back or you die. So the mood was very intense. And so Prabhupada, he went ahead with the Pandal program. And there, one of the reporters even challenged, "Oh, what is the use of spending all this money on this Pandal? No, you could use the money to help poor people." And Prabhupada said, but actually, the real use is to give people a chance to hear. That is the real use. Much more than helping poor people, the real use for the poor people or for rich people, everybody is actually poor for lack of God consciousness, and they are suffering in this world. Rich people are also suffering. This adhyatmik adi, bhautik adi, daivik kleshas are applying to everyone. But if we give them a chance to hear about Krishna, and he said how he succeeded in this method by giving the chance for these youngsters in America to hear. And when they heard from me about Krishna, now they became full devotees. And now they are organizing this program. And everything success comes from that. All our sufferings will be eradicated because of that. So first is Shravanam. And then, the first night of the Pandal program, everything happened. And so these Naxalites came and they started to do agitation and, all the slogans, you have to leave and all these things. And Prabhupada had to stop the class. And then suddenly, Prabhupada leaned forward and he started to sing this Govindam Adipurusham prayers. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. And then he started to sing. And then suddenly the commotion stopped. And everyone joined hands and started to sing. And his Naxalites just walked away. So Prabhupada, he completely depended on Krishna. Even he was capable in all respects. In fact, he was trying to earn a lot of money by his business, and he had the ability. But He took to Krishna's order. He gave up everything, and Krishna reciprocated. So the point is, we have to do our duty and also depend on Krishna. So the other thing in this verse is about asakta, attachment. So we spoke about the importance of hearing about Krishna, particularly the holy name, hearing from the devotee. So the next is attachment, asakti. So one may think when you go to spiritual life, oh, I shall finish all my attachments. Actually, you cannot give up your attachments because attachment to something is the symptom of life. Nobody can be free from attachment. But the attachment we have has to be turned to Krishna. If you become attachment, if you become attached to Krishna, that is a better attachment, then you can forget your material attachment. Prasangam ajaram pasham atmanah kavayo viduhu sa eva sadhushu kruto mokshadvaram apavrunu. It means this this prasangam, this attachment to material things, materialistic relations, anything for that matter, even to the pets, we become attached. This is like a ajaram pasham, very strong rope, strong bond by which we are dragged, continued in this material life, life after life. But that same attachment, when you transfer to a sadhu, to Krishna or sadhu, his devotee, then that attachment will drag us to spiritual life, away from material life and make us liberated. Mokshadwaram apavrunu. It opens the door for liberation. So this is the trick. When Krishna is saying, asakta means you develop attachment for me, develop attachment for my devotees. Therefore, you have to convert or divert our attachment to Krishna. Prabhupada said, that is Krishna consciousness movement. Krishna consciousness movement means we have got attachment, but we have got attachment for false things, temporary things. And if we divert our attachment, that is bhakti. Bhakti does not mean giving up our living conscience, our inclinations. Attachment is a function of the living being. So instead of giving it up, divert that attachment. So it requires training, following the training given by the spiritual master. Rise early in the morning, chant the holy names of Krishna, attend the classes in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, perform whatever services, and in this way associate with the devotees, honor prasadam, visit the temple. In this way, gradually you will develop attachment for Krishna. But we have to push in the beginning. Just like, when in India they do that, I don't know if they still do that. When the car doesn't start, the driver says, can you get down and push the car? And people start to push, and the driver is giving the gas slowly, 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 dush, 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 like that. Something suddenly starts, and then hop in, and then they move. So we have to keep pushing until we start to develop that attachment, and then automatically we keep going. But it is not artificial imposition. It is there in our heart, but it has to be unearthed. We forgot about it, but it has to be unearthed. That cleansing of heart has to happen. चेतोदर्पणमार्जनं भवमहादावाग्निनिर्वापणं श्रेयः कैरवचन्द्रिकावितरणं विद्यावधूजीवनम् आनन्दाम्बुधिवर्धनं प्रतिपदं पूर्णामृतास्वादनं परं विजयते सर्वात्मस्नपनं परं विजयते श्रीकृष्णसङ्कीर्तनम्. So that Sri Krishna Sankirtanam cleanses that dust in the mirror of the mind. One devotee asked Prabhupada, while we are chanting, is it right to be engaged our mind in thinking? So Prabhupada said, that is why the mind is always thinking. The chanting will force you to make the mind focus on that sound than thinking something else. Krishna's sound will by force, because the mind is thinking about so many thoughts, and when you produce the sound is produced, and the mind has to focus on the sound even a little bit. Your mind is so disturbed, you cannot concentrate your mind. So chant and produce that sound vibration, it will forcibly enter into your mind. So many sounds you are producing by chanting the mantra. You have to pick up one sound, even though in the middle of so many thoughts. That is why chanting out loud is important. So even if you don't want Krishna, meaning your mind don't want Krishna, Krishna will enter within your mind by force. So this is the easiest process in Kali Yuga. When the mind is so disturbed, Krishna will come by this process. That is why it is recommended. And by chanting out loud, others who are not accustomed, they will also hear. Sometimes we go out for a walk on the street and you are chanting. Sometimes the pets are there outside on their front yards, fenced yards. The pets also hear. Sometimes people are walking by, they hear. So this is all making it not only we are progressing, others are also progressing. I'll stop here. Anyone has any questions or comments? Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai, Srila Prabhu